Imagine this, March 25, 1931. A rusty, rattling freight train snakes its way through the rugged landscape of northern Alabama. On board, a scuffle breaks out between two groups of young men, one black, one white, all just trying to survive the Great Depression. The fight ends, the white youths are thrown off the train, and life seems to go on. But what happened next would ignite one of the most explosive and significant legal battles in American history. This is the story of the Scottsboro Boys, a case that didn't just put 9 young black men on trial for their lives, but put the entire American justice system under a microscope. When the train pulled into Paint Rock, Alabama, a sheriff's posse was waiting. The white youths who were thrown off had reported the fight. In the chaos of the arrests, two white women who were also on the train, Victoria Price and Ruby Bates, made a shocking accusation. They claimed they had been raped by a gang of black men. 9 young African Americans, ranging in age from just 13 to 20, were arrested. Their names were Olin Montgomery, Clarence Norris, Hayward Patterson, Ozzie Powell, Willie Robertson, Charlie Weems, Eugene Williams, and brothers Andy and Roy Wright. Most of them didn't even know each other. They were just kids, drifters, looking for work in a world that had little to offer. Suddenly, they were at the center of a storm, facing the gravest charges imaginable in the deeply segregated South. The atmosphere in Scottsboro, where the trials were held, was electric with racial tension. Angry mobs surrounded the courthouse, demanding swift, brutal justice. The boys were appointed to defense lawyers, one of whom was a 70-year-old real estate attorney who hadn't tried a case in decades. The other was a local lawyer who showed up drunk on the first day of the trial. The trials were a sham, rushed through in just a few days. Despite flimsy and contradictory medical evidence, and despite one of the boys, Roy Wright, being just 13 years old, the all-white juries delivered their verdicts with chilling speed. 8 of the 9 boys were found guilty and sentenced to death by electric chair. The youngest, Roy Wright, faced a hung jury, but only because some jurors wanted him executed while others felt life imprisonment was sufficient for a child. The verdict sent shockwaves across the nation and around the world. It was a blatant miscarriage of justice, and it didn't go unnoticed. The International Labour Defense, a legal advocacy group affiliated with the Communist Party, stepped in to lead the appeals. Their involvement turned the case into a global cause, a symbol of the fight against racial injustice in America. Prominent lawyers, like the famous Samuel Leibowitz from New York, took up the case, arguing that the boys had been denied their constitutional rights. The case was no longer just about 9 individuals. It was about the 6th Amendment right to effective counsel and the 14th Amendment right to a trial by a jury of one's peers. The legal battle raged for years, making its way up to the highest court in the land. In 1932, the U.S. Supreme Court, in the landmark case, Powell v. Alabama, overturned the convictions. The court ruled that the defendants had been denied adequate legal representation, a fundamental right. It was a monumental victory, establishing a critical precedent that defendants in capital cases must be provided with meaningful legal counsel. The boys were granted new trials, but their ordeal was far from over. The retrials began, and this time, the case took an even more dramatic turn. One of the accusers, Ruby Bates, recanted her testimony. She bravely stood before the court and admitted that she and Victoria Price had fabricated the entire story. She confessed that neither of them had been touched by any of the boys. It was a bombshell. You would think this would be the end of it. Right, case closed, boys go free. But this was still 1930s Alabama. Despite Bates's confession, the prosecution, led by Attorney General Thomas Knight, pressed on. The other accuser, Victoria Price, stuck to her original story, and the all-white juries, swayed by deep-seated prejudice, once again convicted the defendants. The most famous of these retrials was that of Haywood Patterson, whose conviction was set aside by the presiding judge, James Horton, who believed in Patterson's innocence. An act of judicial courage that cost him his career. The case went back to the Supreme Court in 1935. In Norris v. Alabama, the court delivered another landmark ruling. It found that the systematic exclusion of African Americans from the jury rolls in Alabama was unconstitutional. This decision struck a powerful blow against the practice of all-white juries, affirming that a fair trial requires a jury pool that represents a cross-section of the community. Yet again, new trials were ordered, but the state of Alabama was relentless. It seemed that no matter what the Supreme Court ruled, the system was determined to see these young men punished. Finally, after years of legal wrangling, public outcry, and immense suffering, a compromise was reached. In 1937, the prosecution dropped the rape charges against 5 of the defendants. For others, however, were still convicted on various charges, with sentences ranging from 75 years to life in prison. It was a bitter and incomplete form of justice. Haywood Patterson, the most defiant of the group, managed to escape from prison in 1948 and wrote a book about his experience, Scottsboro Boy, before dying of cancer a few years later. The others were gradually paroled over the years. The last surviving Scottsboro Boy, Clarence Norris, was officially pardoned by Governor George Wallace in 1976, more than 4 decades after his ordeal began. It took until 2013 for the state of Alabama to posthumously pardon the final 3 Charlie Weems, Andy Wright, and Haywood Patterson. So why does this case from nearly a century ago still matter so much? The Scottsboro case laid bare the deep, systemic racism embedded in the American legal system. It was a brutal education for the nation, but it also became a catalyst for change. The 2 Supreme Court rulings, Powell v. Alabama and Norris v. Alabama, are now cornerstones of American constitutional law. They fundamentally changed the rights of defendants, ensuring the right to meaningful counsel and the right to a jury of one's peers. The case also galvanized the burgeoning civil rights movement, showing that organized, persistent legal and public pressure could challenge even the most entrenched systems of injustice. It taught a powerful lesson that the fight for justice is often a long, arduous marathon, not a sprint. The story of the 9 Scottsboro Boys is a tragedy, a story of stolen youth and lives shattered by lies and prejudice. But it is also a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring struggle for equality and justice for all. Their legacy is not just in the legal precedents they helped create, but in the ongoing conversation they force us to have about fairness, race, and justice in America. Thank you so much for watching. The story of the Scottsboro Boys is a crucial part of our shared history, and it's so important that we continue to tell it. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into historical events that shaped our world. What next story gives the case of Emmett Till or upcoming one? Let us know in the comments what you think about this case, or if there are other historical trials you'd like us to cover. Until next time, stay curious.